Just say no to stop Putin from taking control of the UN Security Council. It seems like the worst April Fool's joke ever, but Vladimir Putin, who has been charged with being a war criminal, is about to become the head of the United Nations Security Council, with the tacit approval of the United States, France, and the United Kingdom. This is just a few weeks after he was charged with being a global criminal. On top of that, Putin's representative at this Security Council meeting is Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who ran out of the Security Council in the fall when shown proof of Russia's crimes against Ukraine. When Lavrov said that Ukraine attacked Russia and started the war, people at the G20 meeting in New Delhi started laughing. How can the United States do nothing as this car speeds toward the edge of the cliff? In 1986, when Nancy Reagan was First Lady, she came up with the saying, "Just say no," to drug abuse. The United States must use all of its power, including its rarely used veto power, to stop Russian President Vladimir Putin's friend at the United Nations from becoming president of the Security Council and using the UN to cover up Russia's genocide in Ukraine. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for President Putin on March 17, 2023, saying that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Putin bears individual criminal responsibility for a number of atrocities and war crimes committed against civilians since his invasion of their peaceful sovereign neighbor Ukraine last year. The United States, China, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom are the 5 regular members of the Security Council. They are known as the P5. They each have the power to stop any decision from being made. The 10 chosen members of the Security Council, who serve 2-year terms that do not run back to back, do not have veto power. Neither do any other UN member countries. Since Putin's return to power in 2012, Russia has used this important power 24 times, or twice a year, for a decade. It has been used once a year for 10 years in China. But in the last 10 years, the US has only used this ability 3 times. When is a better time than now to use that power? Article 27 of the UN Charter says that a member country that is involved in a disagreement must not vote on the issue. Last year, Russia blocked a Security Council draft resolution that would have stopped the Russian Federation's armed attack of Ukraine, which was against Article 27 and several other parts of the United Nations Charter. Russia should not have been able to vote or use its veto because it was involved in the argument and was the attacker. This idea came from Albania and the United States. 11 Security Council members agreed with it, but Russia said no. The United Arab Emirates, India, and China all decided against it. The resolution of the 15-member council would have strongly condemned the Russian Federation's aggression as a violation of Article 2, Paragraph 4, of the United Nations Charter, which says that no country can threaten or use force against the territorial integrity or political independence of another country. After this, there was a huge show of global unity when 141 countries voted for a UNGA motion that demanded Russia stop its attack of Ukraine right away. Also, Russians stopped this. Shelby Magi and Yulia Slamov of the Atlantic Council quickly and correctly said that the situation makes a joke of the Security Council. History seems to be repeating itself, as Russia suddenly took control of the UN Security Council less than a year after invading Ukraine. Russia used that situation, which was part of a long history of Russian shenanigans at the United Nations, to openly push a false fake story about Ukrainian neo-Nazis while hiding meetings, speakers, and decisions that didn't fit with their evil plan. For example, at Security Council meetings, they called pro-Russian fakes, Ukrainian civil society activists, to show that presumably Ukrainian civil society hated Zelensky and would accept Putin's rule with open arms, which has been laughably proven wrong over the past year. They spread false information about the evil Ukrainian regime, and their own peaceful intentions, to show how smart Putin was compared to a cowardly Ukrainian government that would run away at the first sign of trouble, even though President Zelensky stood his ground in Kyiv and refused to leave. Then, Russia used UN rules to get an institution-wide rejection of economic sanctions that had never happened before. The Kremlin then quickly sent this message to third world countries to stop calm economic blockades of Russia. Russia also held pointless talks about biological weapons and war mosquitoes that Ukraine is said to have made, as well as dirty bombs that Ukraine is said to be using deep inside Russia but do not exist. On top of that, Russia has never been accepted as a UN member state, let alone a valid part of the UN Security Council. No country, not even Russia, has been given special treatment because it is the only country left from a fallen state. When the Soviet Union broke up in 1991, 13 of the 15 former USSR countries, from Armenia to Uzbekistan, had to fill out an application to join. Since they were original members in 1945, only Ukraine and Belarus had standing. In USSR official comments, Russia was never called the same thing as the 15-country USSR. You can't just say you want to join the United Nations, you have to go through an official process. Russia has no formal standing at the United Nations because it has never asked to join, its name has never been reviewed, and it has never been ratified. The United States has been wary to use its veto power in the UN Security Council because professional officials are often very committed to finding a middle ground and talking behind the scenes. However, there are times to stop talking and take a stand. In 1941, the United States, the United Kingdom, and de Gaulle called for an international organization to keep the peace after the war. They wanted it to have veto power for 5 countries if they were still members in good standing. In the next 5 days, all the United States needs to do is take a stand, say no to Russia's Security Council chair, and ask the next country in line to take its place. Late in 2022, a Putin spokesman told the leaders of Russia that the war in Ukraine would last a long time. At a party at the end of December 2022, Dmitry Peskov, who was the press secretary for the Russian Federation, said that Russia's war with Ukraine would go on for a very long time. The Guardian said that at the end of December 2022, Russia's cultural and political elite gathered at the apartment of a top state official for a dinner where they toasted the new year and hoped for peace. Peskov, one of the guests, said, "Things will get much worse. This is going to take a very long time." His words put a damper on the evening for the people there, many of whom have privately said they don't like the war in Ukraine. It was scary to listen to him talk. One person is said to have said, "It was clear that he was telling us that the war would be with us for a long time."